Alright guys, so this video is going to instruct you how to put on underbody toolboxes. You got several different options here. What we like to use and recommend is this is Buyer's brand underbody box. It's 30 inches long, 14 inches tall, and 16 inches deep. This is for the long bed. If you have a short bed, you're going to want to use an 18-inch box, not a 30-inch box. But if you don't want to use this kind, again, this is Buyer's. It's raw. It doesn't have any powder coat or anything on it, so you can weld it on and get it powder coated the same color as your bed, which is why we like them. But if you want to put something on that's already powder coated, you want to bolt it on after you get powder coat done, that will work too. You're just going to have to add some brackets and mounting hardware to your bed so that your already coated box can just bolt up to the bottom. But for the purposes of this, we recommend that you use the raw ones that you weld right on. So I'm going to show you how to weld this particular box on. This is going to go right up at the front on the passenger side is what the video is going to show, but obviously we're going to put them on both sides of this bed. Next I'm going to go over how to reinforce the hinges on the inside, so we'll get a little closer shot of that. So I got this box opened up. This is only going to be applicable for using the Buyer's brand raw underbody toolboxes, but that's what we recommend, so some of you might be doing that. So what I've done here, I've got this lid open, and one thing we've learned over the years is to reinforce these hinges by welding them up. That just ensures that when you use these over time, these hinges tend to fall off and wear out if you don't reinforce them with welds. So what I've done here is I've just welded the outsides, a couple stitch welds where the weld connects to the lid, and also where the hinge connects to the lid, and also where the hinge connects to the box. So just weld it on like I've got it here around the edges of the outside of the hinge. And then also I've just put little baby tack welds on all of the hinge where they pivot. So make sure you don't get this backwards. They're going to alternate on the top and bottom. If you open and close the box like this, you'll be able to tell which junctions connect to which side. But if you do it oppositely, you're going to know because you're not going to be able to open and shut it. But just tack weld alternately, like I've got here, tack weld, stitch weld the outside of the hinge, and that's just going to reinforce it for years of use so it won't fall apart. Okay, so quick tip to just keep this closed while we're working with it. Get yourself like 2 feet of welder's wire, just pull the trigger on your welder, get like 2 feet of wire, and then what I've done here is on the end of it, I've just looped in a washer, just like so. So what we're going to do with this, on the back side of these Buyer's raw boxes, there's a hole back here. I'm going to run this in, and my washer is not going to be able to fit through the hole back here. And then I'm going to wire the door shut by running it through one of these little holes. And that will keep the door shut for installing so it's not falling on you while you're welding, etc. Alright guys, so this is obviously from the install portion of the process, but I just want to point this out if you are going to put on underbody toolboxes on your bed, that you need to do some homework on your particular pickup and figure out what the outside width of your front frame mount is. So most pickups are going to have your frame rails that run parallel to each other the entire length of the bed. But some models, like this one here, the frame is actually going to spread at the front. So this model here is about the widest that the front frame mounts are going to be. They're about 55.5 inches wide. So in this case, if your pickup has the spread frames, and you're going to need to take the measurement from the outside of your front frame mounts to make sure that the inside edges of both of your toolboxes on your bed are at least a little bit wider than that. So when you set your bed on here, the insides of both of your underbody toolboxes go on the outside slightly of your front frame mount. So just do a little homework on your particular model, and ideally get the measurement from the outside of your front frame rails, and that way you can ensure that your toolboxes are going to be able to fit on. A really easy way to do this is to actually just take the measurement from the 2 frontmost bed bolts in your bed, because if this is where the bed bolts went in and mounted the actual bed. So if your front bed bolts are whatever measurement, that's usually a pretty safe bet to how wide the frame rails are. You still might look underneath and see how much mount is sticking out past the bolt hole, but just do some homework on your particular model because you want to make sure that the inside edges of your toolboxes will fit over the outside edges of your front frame mount. Alright, so I got my door wired shut. Next thing we're going to do is just tack weld this on and then solid weld it on. So the easiest way to hold this up here is get yourself a piece of scrap tube, like down here that I got my feet rested on, and then a stool that's about 24 inches off the ground, just where it's comfortable to sit on it and position the box up on the bed like I have here. And then you can just kind of do a calf raise to hold it tight against the bottom of your frame. So one thing that's really important here, especially on wide frame models, if you're building a wide frame bed, is you need to have the edge of this box outset like at least a 1/4 inch, because if you don't, on some wide frame models, the inside edge of this box is going to hit on your frame. So make sure you have this at least a 1/4 inch out. If you're doing a narrow frame, you can set it in flush, but for wide frames, you got to have it at least a 1/4 inch outset. So I'm going to do mine at 1/4 inch. Towards the outside here. The front side up here is flush with the front side of my frame, and then what we're going to do is once we get it where we want it, I'm going to tack weld the 3 corners. So right here, and then on the corner that you can't see up on the front side here. After that's done, we're going to solid weld the whole thing across the side and also across the front. So I'm going to go ahead and tack weld this on. Let's make sure it's square. So once you got it tack welded in 3 positions, I got all 3 corners. The next thing we're going to do is solid weld this whole seam here, and then also the whole seam on the front side. So just go ahead and do that, and then we will add a piece of bracing on the inside next. One final thing to do after you have your toolbox on, this is my underbody toolbox. This is the front passenger side corner up here. We kind of got the inside view here. One final thing to do is just add this piece of bracing here. This is just some leftover 1/8 inch by 2 inch square flat bar that you guys should have left. So basically what you do is you just take a measurement from the inside of your outer frame to the inside edge of your toolbox, add a 1/4 inch to that, and it should give you this nice angled piece right here. This is just extra support, so when you got lots of weight in your box, it isn't going to pry on this inside corner here. So do this on both sides, but again, recommended but not required. One extra thing that we just want to show you guys for a really good addition to the bed that is optional is welding some D-rings on the inside of your outer frame like shown here. And what these do is they provide a nice place to strap your cargo without having to go around the outside of your outer frame. So what we do is we put the top side of the D-ring a 1/4 inch below the top side of the outer frame. That way when we put our decking in, it's actually going to be recessed into the deck and be flat on the same plane as the top of the decking. What we'll do is we'll put the decking in and sand out a little pocket for these to lay in. So when you don't have anything strapped in, they will lay flat in the deck. They don't cause any disruption when you're sliding things on and off the bed. But when you want to strap, you just pull them up, strap to it. So we got 2 on the inside here and 2 over there on the other side. If you want to put 3, whatever spacing, up to you, but this is a really handy and good addition. But this will only work if you're going to be doing a wood deck. But again, optional as far as how many you want to do, what spacing you want to do, but a really nice handy addition to have if you're going to be strapping cargo on a lot. This is just going to be a quick little clip about if your pickup has a backup camera that you're wanting to install. A lot of the newer pickups are going to have a backup camera. So we're just going to go over quickly, if you want to install that, how to do so. So as you can see here, I have an extra hole drilled, and this is 2 inches from center to center below the center marker light hole. So you're going to need to do at least a 5/8 hole. You can also do a 3/4 inch hole depending on what drill bit you have handy. But just center it right underneath the center marker. Just drill a 5/8 or 3/4 inch hole, and then we're going to switch the camera and show you what we got going on the back side on how to install it once you get it back from powder coat. So we've switched the back side here on the back side of the backup camera hole. So our marker lights are up here. This is the hole that we saw from the front side. So what you're going to need to do in order to install the camera once it gets back from powder coat is get a 2.5 inch long by 1/4 inch diameter bolts, cut the heads off of them, and then just weld them about 1 inch on center top and bottom from this hole. And then once we get it back from powder coat, what we're going to do is we're just going to cut a little piece of flat bar about this long, drill 2 holes in it, and then use that flat bar to pinch the camera against our back plate here. So it's pretty simple. Just like I said, 1.5" by 1/4" inch bolts, cut the heads off, weld them 1 inch on center above and below this hole. And once we get it back from powder coat, we'll just use a piece of flat bar to clamp it.